Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they lose the battle that happens long before anyone else can see it. It's the quiet moment when you promise yourself you'll wake up early, but the alarm rings and your hand reaches for the snooze button. It's the moment you say you'll save money, then convince yourself that one more purchase won't matter. It's deciding to stay calm during an argument, only to let one sentence pull you into saying something you'll regret. Life rarely changes because of one dramatic decision. It changes because of hundreds of small choices that nobody applauds and almost nobody notices. That's why so many people become frustrated. They spend years trying to change their job, their relationships, their finances, or their health, while ignoring the one thing that controls every one of those areas: self-control. People often think discipline means forcing yourself to suffer. They picture strict routines, endless work, and saying no to everything enjoyable. But that's a misunderstanding. Real self-control isn't about making life harder. It's about making fewer decisions that work against the future you actually want. Once you understand that difference, discipline stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like freedom. Take a simple example. Two friends decide to get healthier. They both join the same gym on the same day. During the first week, they're equally excited. They buy new clothes, talk about their goals, and even encourage each other. A month later, one of them still shows up 3 or 4 times each week. The other has already quit. At first glance, it looks like one person had more motivation. But if you watch closely, something else is happening. The first friend stopped depending on motivation almost immediately. They expected some days to feel boring. They expected tired mornings and busy evenings. Instead of asking, "Do I feel like exercising today?" they quietly asked a different question. "What kind of person am I becoming?" That single change is more powerful than most people realize. Long before modern psychology became a field of study, the Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that while we cannot control everything around us, we can learn to control our own choices and responses. He believed that freedom doesn't come from controlling the world. It comes from learning to govern yourself. Centuries later, science continues to support that idea. People with strong self-control aren't perfect. They don't always have stronger willpower than everyone else. In many cases, they've simply built environments and habits that make good choices easier and bad choices harder. That changes everything. Think about someone who wants to eat healthier. One person fills the kitchen with snacks, sweets, and junk food while hoping they'll resist temptation every evening. Another person simply doesn't buy those foods in the first place. Both want the same result. Only one understands human nature. Here's something many people miss. Every unnecessary temptation is like asking your brain to fight another battle. Win enough battles, and eventually you'll lose one, not because you're weak, but because constant resistance is exhausting. Real discipline often begins before temptation even appears. Instead of trying to become stronger every hour, disciplined people quietly make smarter decisions earlier. This pattern appears almost everywhere. Successful students don't only study harder, they often remove distractions before opening a book. Good leaders don't wait until a crisis to become calm. They practice clear thinking long before problems arrive. Financially responsible people don't rely on endless self-control while shopping. Many automate savings, so the decision has already been made. Notice the pattern. They aren't constantly winning fights. They're avoiding unnecessary ones. That's one of the biggest secrets behind lasting discipline. Many people imagine self-control as standing in front of a huge wall every day and pushing with all their strength. In reality, disciplined people often build a gate beside the wall and simply walk through it. The effort happens once, not every single day. Now consider another, everyday situation. A parent wants to spend more quality time with their child after work. Every afternoon they tell themselves they'll put the phone away, but each notification steals a few more minutes. One message becomes 10. A quick video becomes 30. By bedtime, another day has disappeared. Nothing dramatic happened. No major mistake was made. Yet something important was slowly traded away. Self-control is often lost in moments so small they seem harmless. That's why it's dangerous to judge decisions one at a time. One missed workout doesn't ruin your health. One unhealthy meal doesn't ruin your body. One unnecessary purchase doesn't destroy your finances. One angry comment doesn't end every relationship. But repeated hundreds of times, these tiny moments quietly become your future. Think of self-control as steering a ship. Move the wheel by only a few degrees, and nothing seems different during the first minute. The ocean still looks the same. Keep that slight turn for several hours, and you arrive at an entirely different destination. Life works much the same way. Small choices rarely feel important while you're making them. Their importance only becomes obvious after they've been repeated for months or years. That's why waiting for a dramatic breakthrough is often a mistake. Most lasting change begins with ordinary decisions that nobody celebrates. And perhaps the hardest truth of all is this: every time you break a promise to yourself, you don't just lose progress, you weaken the trust you have in your own word. Eventually, your mind begins to treat your future promises as empty intentions instead of real commitments. Rebuilding that trust is one of the most important parts of mastering self-control. Before you can convince the world that you're reliable, you have to convince yourself. The journey starts there. There is a quiet habit that slowly steals discipline from people's lives, and most never notice it happening. It isn't laziness. It isn't a lack of intelligence. It isn't bad luck. It's the habit of negotiating with yourself. Listen carefully to how that conversation usually sounds. I'll start on Monday. I've had a long day. I'll do it tomorrow. I deserve a break. Just this once. Each sentence sounds harmless on its own. In fact, some of them even sound reasonable. But when they become your normal way of thinking, they slowly teach your brain that every commitment is open for discussion. Over time, your own promises begin to lose value. Here's a situation many people have seen. A student plans to study for 2 hours after school. They sit down, open the textbook, and after 10 minutes their phone lights up. A friend sends a funny video. They watch it. Then another appears. Then another. An hour disappears. When they finally return to the book, they feel guilty. The guilt makes studying feel even harder, so they give up for the day. Most people think the problem was the phone. The phone wasn't the real problem. The real problem happened the moment the student accepted the first negotiation. I'll only watch one. That single decision quietly changed the direction of the evening. Self-control is rarely lost all at once. It slips away one small permission at a time. This is why discipline is less about making huge sacrifices and more about protecting tiny decisions. Long before modern behavioral science, Marcus Aurelius wrote reminders to himself that no one else was meant to read. Again and again, he brought his attention back to one simple truth: your mind is the part you truly govern. Outside events will always compete for your attention, but your response remains your responsibility. That idea feels just as true today. Your phone will always have another notification. Your streaming service will always have another episode. Social media will always give you another reason to keep scrolling. The world is designed to pull your attention away from what matters. Discipline is the ability to decide where your attention belongs before someone else decides for you. Think about the people you admire most. Maybe they're successful entrepreneurs. Maybe they're great athletes. Maybe they're respected teachers or parents. If you watch them closely, you'll notice something surprising. They don't make every decision perfectly. They simply recover quickly when they make a bad one. This is where many people misunderstand discipline. They believe one mistake ruins everything. They miss one workout and decide the whole week is ruined. They eat one unhealthy meal and abandon their diet. They miss one day of studying and convince themselves they'll never catch up. This is one of the most damaging ways to think. The mistake is rarely what causes failure. Giving the mistake permission to become a habit is what causes failure. Picture a driver taking the wrong road. A disciplined driver notices the mistake, turns around, and gets back on course. An undisciplined driver keeps driving in the wrong direction simply because they've already gone too far. Life works the same way. Recovery matters more than perfection. That's why some people make incredible progress, even though they fail regularly. They don't waste energy judging themselves. They spend that energy correcting themselves. There's an important difference. Self-criticism often feels productive because it sounds serious. I should have known better. I'm so lazy. I always mess things up. But those thoughts don't solve the problem. They simply keep your attention trapped in the past. Self-control isn't about becoming your harshest critic. It's about becoming your most honest coach. A good coach doesn't pretend mistakes didn't happen. But they also don't spend the entire practice talking about yesterday's loss. They ask one important question. What do we do next? That question moves your attention back toward action. Here's another everyday example. Someone decides to save part of every paycheck. During one difficult month, they spend more than planned. Many people would think, I've already failed, and continue spending carelessly for weeks. Someone with stronger self-control responds differently. They notice the mistake, adjust their budget, and continue saving with the very next paycheck. The difference isn't talent. It's recovery speed. One person turns a bad day into a bad month. The other limits the damage to a single decision. That's a skill anyone can learn. Behavioral psychologist Daniel Kahneman spent decades studying how people make decisions. One of his biggest insights was that our minds naturally prefer what feels easy right now over what benefits us later. We often choose immediate comfort because our brains give extra value to rewards we can enjoy today. Understanding this changes how you see yourself. When you struggle with discipline, it doesn't necessarily mean you're weak. It means your brain is doing what human brains naturally do. The goal isn't to eliminate that tendency. The goal is to build systems that help you make better choices anyway. For example, someone who wants to read more might leave a book on their bedside table instead of hiding it on a shelf. Someone trying to drink more water keeps a bottle within reach all day. Someone working on fitness lays out their workout clothes the night before. These habits look almost too simple. That's exactly why they work. Good systems quietly reduce the number of decisions you have to make. And every decision you remove is one less opportunity for your mind to negotiate against your future. Here's a useful way to think about it. Every promise you keep to yourself is like placing one brick into a house. One brick doesn't look impressive. Neither do 10. But after hundreds of bricks, you've built something strong enough to stand through storms. Your confidence works the same way. Real confidence doesn't come from motivational speeches or positive thinking. It grows every time your actions prove that your word can be trusted. That's why mastering self-control is really about building a relationship with yourself. And like every strong relationship, it's built through consistency, not grand gestures. There comes a point where discipline stops feeling like something you force and starts becoming part of who you are. That shift doesn't happen because life suddenly gets easier. It happens because your identity begins to change. Many people focus almost entirely on outcomes. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to earn more money. I want to write a book. I want to start a business. Goals are useful because they give you a direction, but they have one weakness. The moment you reach them, they stop guiding your behavior. Identity lasts much longer. Instead of saying, I want to exercise, an identity-based thinker says, I'm someone who takes care of my body. Instead of saying, I want to save money, they think, I'm someone who manages money wisely. The words seem similar, but they lead to very different actions. When your behavior matches your identity, discipline becomes less of a struggle. Take a common workplace example. Two employees are asked to finish an important report before Friday. The first waits until Thursday night, hoping they'll feel motivated. They rush through the work, feel stressed, and barely meet the deadline. The second blocks out an hour each morning from Monday onward. By Thursday afternoon, the report is finished. The second employee didn't necessarily work harder. They simply became the kind of person who acts before pressure takes over. That's the hidden strength of discipline. It replaces emergency decisions with planned actions. Centuries ago, Aristotle argued that we become what we repeatedly do. Excellence, in his view, wasn't a single act but a habit. While the world has changed enormously since then, that idea still fits everyday life. Your habits quietly shape your character, and your character shapes the direction of your life. Think about someone who is always on time. They probably don't wake up each morning wondering whether punctuality is important. It's already part of who they are. The same is true for people who keep their promises, finish what they start, or stay calm under pressure. Those behaviors have become normal. The challenge is getting to that point. One reason many people struggle is because they expect change to feel exciting. The truth is almost the opposite. Most of the habits that improve your life feel ordinary. Reading 10 pages. Walking for 30 minutes. Preparing tomorrow's clothes before bed. Turning off your phone during dinner. Going to sleep on time. None of these actions are dramatic enough to impress anyone. But they quietly shape the person you're becoming. This is one of the biggest misunderstandings about success. People often admire the result while ignoring the routine that created it. They see the athlete lifting a trophy. They don't see the years of ordinary training sessions. They admire the successful business owner. They rarely think about the thousands of small decisions made when nobody was watching. Discipline grows in private long before success becomes public. Here's another situation many families recognize. A child watches two parents handle stress very differently. One parent reacts to every inconvenience with anger. Traffic causes frustration. Small mistakes become arguments. Unexpected problems ruin the entire day. The other parent pauses before responding. They still feel stress. They still get disappointed. But they choose their response instead of letting emotions choose it for them. Years later, the child is likely to remember far more than words. They'll remember the example. That's another important truth. Self-control spreads. People around you notice it, even when you never mention it. Friends begin trusting you more because your actions match your promises. Co-workers rely on you because you stay steady when situations become difficult. Family members feel safer because they know your emotions won't swing wildly with every challenge. Discipline isn't just a personal advantage. It improves every relationship connected to you. There's another trap worth talking about. Many people confuse being busy with being disciplined. They fill every hour with activity. Their calendar is packed. Their phone never stops buzzing. Yet at the end of the week, they struggle to explain what actually moved their life forward. Being busy can create the feeling of progress without creating real progress. Discipline asks a different question. What matters most today? Once that answer becomes clear, many distractions lose their power. Think of your attention like money. Most people would never hand cash to every stranger they meet. Yet many freely give away their attention to every notification, argument, headline, and unnecessary interruption. Attention is one of your most valuable resources because whatever receives, it begins to shape your life. Protecting your attention is protecting your future. Psychologists often describe habits as loops. A cue appears. You respond with a behavior. Then your brain receives a reward. The more often that loop repeats, the stronger it becomes. This explains why bad habits can feel automatic. But it also explains why good habits become easier over time. Every repetition strengthens the path. At first, choosing the better action feels uncomfortable because your brain is building a new road. With enough repetition, that road becomes the easier one to travel. That's encouraging because it means discipline isn't fixed. It's trained. No one is born automatically waking up early, exercising consistently, or managing money wisely. Those skills are built one decision at a time. And each good decision makes the next one slightly easier. The interesting part is that your life often changes long before you notice it. People around you may begin commenting that you seem calmer, more reliable, more focused, more confident. They see the results before you do because they're watching the outside. You've been living through the daily process, so the progress feels almost invisible. That's why patience is part of discipline. You rarely notice a tree growing from one day to the next. But return after several years, and the difference is impossible to miss. Character grows in much the same way. Every quiet decision becomes another ring inside the tree, making it stronger with time. There is one final lesson about self-control that many people don't discover until much later in life. The hardest person to lead is often yourself. It's easy to give advice to someone else. You can clearly see when they're making poor choices, avoiding difficult conversations, or wasting time on things that don't matter. But when your own emotions become involved, everything feels different. Excuses sound reasonable. Delays feel justified. Comfort disguises itself as wisdom. This is why self-control is a form of leadership. Before you can lead a team, a business, or a family well, you have to learn how to lead your own thoughts, emotions, and actions. History is full of people who achieved positions of influence but never mastered themselves. Some had wealth, status, or authority, yet their lack of self-control eventually destroyed what they had built. Their greatest obstacle wasn't an enemy. It was the inability to govern their own decisions. During the Renaissance, Niccolò Machiavelli made an observation that still fits everyday life. He understood that success isn't only about strength or intelligence. It's also about preparing for difficult moments before they arrive. Those who wait until a crisis to develop discipline are already at a disadvantage. That lesson applies far beyond politics. If you only practice patience when life is easy, you won't have it when life becomes difficult. If you only save money when nothing unexpected happens, your plan will collapse the first time an emergency appears. If you only stay calm when everyone agrees with you, then calmness isn't really your habit. It's simply the absence of pressure. Real self-control reveals itself when circumstances become uncomfortable. Think about a customer standing in a long line at a busy store. One person becomes impatient after a few minutes. They complain, argue with the employee, and leave frustrated. Another person is just as tired. They dislike waiting just as much, but they understand that losing control won't shorten the line. The situation is identical. The response is different, and that response shapes the experience. Life constantly presents moments like this. Traffic, unexpected bills, delays, criticism, disappointment. None of these experiences ask for permission before arriving. What they reveal is the quality of the habits you've built beforehand. One of the biggest myths about discipline is that it removes joy from life. The opposite is often true. Self-control allows you to enjoy life without being controlled by every passing feeling. Think about someone who manages their finances well. They don't avoid spending forever. Instead, they gain the freedom to spend confidently because they've prepared wisely. Think about someone who takes care of their health. They don't refuse every celebration or every dessert. They simply avoid turning occasional pleasures into daily habits. Discipline doesn't eliminate enjoyment. It protects it from becoming excess. There's another idea worth remembering. Many people wait until they feel confident before taking action. But confidence usually follows action, not the other way around. Consider someone learning to speak in public. Their first presentation may feel uncomfortable. Their second is only slightly better. After 20 presentations, they begin speaking naturally. Confidence didn't arrive first. Repeated action created confidence. The same is true for self-control. You don't wake up one morning with perfect discipline. You build it through hundreds of ordinary choices. Each promise you keep becomes evidence that you can trust yourself. Over time, that evidence becomes stronger than your doubts. Psychologist William James believed that repeated actions shape not only what we do, but also who we become. Every habit, in a sense, strengthens a particular version of ourselves. The more often you repeat a behavior, the more natural that behavior begins to feel. That's encouraging, because it means your future isn't trapped by your past. No matter how many times you've broken promises to yourself before, you can begin building a different pattern today. Not tomorrow. Not next Monday. Not when life becomes easier. Today. It doesn't require a dramatic change. It begins with one decision that matches the person you want to become. Read one chapter. Take one walk. Save a small amount of money. Finish one task before checking your phone. Go to bed when you plan to. Small actions often look too ordinary to matter, but they are the building blocks of extraordinary lives. Here's one final way to think about discipline. Imagine you're building a bridge across a wide river. Each promise you keep places another strong plank onto that bridge. At first, the bridge seems too short to be useful. After a while, it reaches halfway across. Eventually, one day, you realize you've built a path that can carry you safely to places that once seemed impossible to reach. That's what self-control really does. It quietly builds a bridge between the life you have today and the life you've been hoping for. Most people spend years searching for shortcuts, secret methods, or moments of sudden inspiration. Yet the strongest advantage has been available from the beginning. The ability to guide your own choices. To stay steady when emotions change. to act according to your values instead of your impulses, to become someone whose actions match their intentions. Mastering self-control doesn't guarantee that life will always be easy. There will still be setbacks, unexpected problems, moments of disappointment. But you'll meet those moments as a different person, someone who no longer depends on temporary feelings to make lasting decisions. And that's the quiet power of discipline. Long before the world notices you've changed, you'll notice something even more important. You'll stop wondering whether you can trust yourself. Because every day, through your actions, you'll already know the answer.